They call them flying saucers, sometimes UFOs. Is there such a thing as an unidentified flying object? Some say yes, some no. Some are even willing to look for them at dusk on a lonely stretch of beach near Waukegan. They come here to commune with outer space.
Start the message now, group. Here we go. We are your friends. We are your friends. Please contact us. Please contact us. Please contact us.
Man has always viewed the heavens with awe. When he was young, the moon, the sun, the planets, and the galaxies beyond made man blink in wonder. He believed the moon caused madness. An eclipse of the sun could bring him to his knees and freeze him with terror. A comet foretold the death of kings. But man has grown older and wiser and lives in an age of reason. He lives in an orderly universe, and he has learned to fly through space. Yet even now, as he looks up from Earth, there are things in the heavens that puzzle him.
We jumped out of the car and stood by the side of the road just as this thing passed over our heads, barely above the treetops.
It was hovering over the house, and it was moving side to side directly over this house.
And as far as what it was, I wouldn't have the slightest idea. It's not the slightest idea.
For nearly 20 years, we've argued. For nearly 20 years, we've wondered. Have we been watching a fantasy, a legend, a myth? Or is something up there watching us?
We are your friends. Please contact us. We are your friends. Please contact us. We are your friends.
Elk Grove Village, northwest of Chicago. Mrs. Susan Crowley recalls a night she'll never forget.
It was about midnight on February 8th of 1965, and I was driving down Harmony Lane, which is the street on which we live, and I noticed a very strange object in the sky, and I drove down the street and pulled in the driveway, and I jumped out of the car, and I ran around the side of the house, and it was hovering over the house, and it was moving side to side directly over this house. I was so stunned, and I ran back around the house again, and I came in the front door to wake up my husband so I could show him. And I ran through the house, and I looked out the dining room windows, and the object was gone. And I ran in, and I got my husband out of bed, and I brought him out, and he stood here and looked for about a half an hour, and the police came out, and they took a report, but they had no further reports of any such object. I've drawn this object many times since I saw it, and it was an oval inside of an oval. It was a very definite shape. It was about 40 feet long, and I say this because the house is about 50 feet long, and it made no noise. It was completely silent, and I could see no visible entries or windows or doors, as we would call it. The only logical explanation that I can come up with is that it was a flying object of some sort that could hover, and such as I've never seen before. Lots of people have suggested that I forget this because of the ridicule it might bring to my husband and my children. But I saw it for so many minutes that I can't deny what I saw.
Mrs. Crowley's story is not unusual. The files of the Air Force are filled with similar cases, and reports continue at the rate of about 2 a day. The unidentified flying object, true or false, has become a part of our culture. Dictionaries define it, encyclopedias discuss it, and space-age children have the choice of at least 4 different models in Luke department stores. But the UFO is more than a figment of a child's imagination. In 1947, a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold saw 9 objects hovering over Mount Rainier, and for the lack of a better name, called them flying saucers. The phrase stuck, and a modern controversy was born. Yet UFO buffs claim the legend has existed throughout history, from 45,000 BC to the present. Chicago's first recorded experience with a UFO took place in 1897. On April 9th of that year, something with blinking green and white lights floated slowly over the city. It could well have been a hoax, but the sight brought huge crowds into the streets and left thousands puzzled. In recent years, a scattered number of photographs have appeared in papers throughout the world. They show a variety of sizes, shapes, and designs. Sometimes there are only patterns of light in a darkened sky. But photographs can be altered and retouched, and they're difficult to prove. Occasionally, motion pictures are uncovered, such as these home movies taken in Venezuela in 1962. Mr. Ali Diaz of Caracas was vacationing aboard a tourist plane flying over remote sections of the backcountry. As he approached a landmark known as Angel Falls, Mr. Diaz began to take movies from a side window. Suddenly, on the right, a light rose from the jungle and disappeared above the mountains. The sequence is brief, and even when the scene is repeated, it shows only a moving light. In itself, the film proves nothing. And perhaps, as in so many other cases, there's a simple answer. Yet in the great flood of UFO reports, a few have remained unidentified. The place, Elmwood Park, west of Chicago. The time, 3:30 in the morning. Officer Joseph Lukaszek, his partner Clifford Shaw, and an off-duty fireman Robert Volz were patrolling the streets. Traveling over the same ground, Joe Lukaszek remembers what happened on that night, some 8 years ago.
We were traveling west down the alley, so I hadn't noticed sort of a window open in one of the business homes. And I told my partner to put the spotlight on this window here that was supposed to have been open. And just then, the light of the car dimmed where a light of a match would have been much brighter. We saw a strange object. It was perfectly round, possibly 50 to 100 feet in front of us. It was sort of a reddish and orange color, real easy on the eyes. We were chasing this object, which was going west down the alley. It formed itself in a cigar shape and looked as though it was going to land into the cemetery. So as I took my light on, the sure object rise possibly at the speed of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So we lost sight of it. So I remarked to my partner, well, we lost the object, so no sense of worrying over it. As we approached 80th, this object came to our left, almost hitting the squad car, where if I would have had the window down, I could have just touched the object. So we chased it as far as Franklin Park. We didn't care to go any further out of town, and we just sat there. And then it disappeared as though you took a shade and rolled it up.
They returned to the cemetery, looked again, and found nothing. Later, they heard of a similar case that happened in Texas the night before. And through the years, they wondered what they saw on that night in 1957. Some think they know.
We believe that UFOs are real, that they are from outer space, and that they are intelligently controlled.
Sherman Larson, president of the Chicago chapter of NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, the largest UFO citizens group in the country, founded by retired Marine Corps officer Major Donald Keyhole. In Chicago, NICAP meets in the Adler Planetarium.
Now, our purpose is to inform the public of the reality of UFOs, or unidentified flying objects.
NICAP has one point of view concerning UFOs, and the Air Force has quite another.
There has never been any evidence presented to the United States Air Force or discovered by the United States Air Force which would indicate that the UFO phenomenon represents any interplanetary space vehicle of any kind.
Major Hector Quintanilla, Wright-Patterson Field, Chief of Project Blue Book, the unit that investigates UFOs.
From time to time, the Air Force has been accused of withholding UFO information from the public. And this is just not so. A number of authors have visited Project Blue Book office to do research prior to writing their books.
There have been many books on the UFO. Most recently, one by French scientist Jacques Vallée, a NASA consultant now living in Chicago. Vallée has heard all sides of the UFO question, and he's still curious.
We know now that there is no simple answer. This is not simply a psychological phenomenon or a sociological phenomenon that would have died away long ago. We know it's not a secret device. If a secret device had been developed, let's say by the Russians or by this country in 1947, we would know about it now. Something would have happened.
During the course of our investigation, we have talked to numerous people who have claimed to have seen cigar-shaped objects, flying saucers, flying bathtubs, and similar objects like that. We have also talked to some people who have claimed to have contacted beings from outer space.
Where do you meet someone from outer space? Perhaps in the North Woods. Joe Simonson of Eagle River, Wisconsin, spins a yarn about an April morning in 1961. A morning when, he says, he came face to face with another world.
Right here is where this flying saucer, this UFO, landed. Right here about where I'm standing. And it was a big, huge thing, and I wondered what the heck it was. I was in my kitchen having a bite of lunch, and I turned around, put the dishes in the sink, and I looked out the window, and that's when I first saw this thing coming straight down, just like an elevator. And first I thought the roof went off of my house, and I thought, no, the roof is green, and this is bright. What the heck is it? So I rushed out to see what it was, and by that time, there was a hatchway opening up in the top of it, just like the trunk of your car. And in there stood a little man. I say a little man, about 5 foot tall, holding up a jug or a container, and he motioned, he wanted to drink. He motioned for water. So I walked up to him to get this jug, and I looked at his eyes, and they were so penetrating that I had to look away. So I went to the basement to get this water, and I thought, well, they want water, so I'll take it up to them and see what happens. And with that, I brought the water up, and he was looking at me when I first came out of the basement. But I didn't look at his face until I got right up to him. Then I looked up, and I handed the jug up with both hands, and I had that same look in his eyes, a sort of a penetrating look. And when he took the water, I balanced myself with this hand against the machine, and I stepped back a few steps. And then with that, he set the jug down, and he gave me a salute with the back of his hand, a gesture of thanks, I presume. And then, well, I gave him my salute. What am I going to do? So I noticed this little man, same size of a man, right to the right side of the hatchway, cooking these pancakes, which I have one here yet. He was frying these pancakes, and I pointed to him and made a gesture like eating. I thought maybe I'd get a conversation out of him. Nobody was saying anything. But he didn't say a word. He just reached over and he got a handful of them, 4 of them, and he handed them down to me. And they were hot and greasy. And this man cooking these pancakes, it was on a square grill-like concern. I couldn't see any flame, but it seemed to be very hot. There was smoke coming from it. And if that was their food, God help them, because I took a bite of one of them, and it tasted like a piece of cardboard. And if that's what they lived on, no wonder they're small. And with that, he reached up and he closed his hatch with a heavy thud click like when it latched. And you couldn't a bit more see where that hatch was than you could see a hole in my hand. And with that, the thing started to raise just like it came down. Everything was timed perfect. It went up about 20 feet. It tilted 45 degrees straight south and shot off. And within 2 or 3 seconds, it was out of sight. Well, there I stood in the driveway with a handful of greasy pancakes and my mouth open, wondering what the heck I saw, what had happened.
It is outside the realm of the Air Force to pass judgment on Mr. Simons' case. However, the pancakes that he turned over to the Air Force were turned over to the Food and Drug people, and they were analyzed as pure buckwheat pancakes.
Many UFO cases end with investigation. This is Dearborn Observatory, Northwestern University, a place where man can explore the depths of the universe. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, chairman of the Department of Astronomy, a UFO investigator for the Air Force for the past 18 years. A sighting has been reported northwest of Chicago on April 15th at 7:30 in the evening. A number of people spoke of a strange light in the sky. Mrs. Victor Baumgart was traveling by car near her home. She described something with headlights that crossed the road and hovered over a field.
There was not one sound. I listened. I spent a lot of time, of the time I was watching it, listening. There was not a sound. In the second place, I have never seen an exhaust coming out of a jet that was colored this beautiful, brilliant white. There was not one hint of yellow in the exhaust at all. In the next place, hovering over something. I knew it was something I had never seen before.
Now, how did it differ from a bolide or a fireball or a very, very bright meteor?
Have you ever seen a meteor with headlights?
No, I've never seen a meteor with headlights. But one might see a meteor that looked like it had headlights.
Well,
however,
believe me, I do not drink, and this had some kind of light on the back
all right,
of it.
good, fine. Now, but have you ever seen a real bolide?
Oh, I've seen them up high in the sky. I've never seen one close, no. Also, may I ask one question on a meteor? Don't you think it would be kind of unusual for a meteor to just fall across the road and hover over there a minute and then drop to the ground?
The coming over wouldn't be bad. The hovering that would bother me. This is why I wanted to know just how long it hovered.
Yes, well, it hovered too long to be a meteor. Excuse me for saying this.
No, it's all right. This is what I want to find out. What do you think it was?
I honestly was never a real believer in flying saucers. I believe if an intelligent person says that he has seen something and he has not been drinking and he's not out of his mind, that we ought to stop and listen.
A few miles to the southwest, another sighting of the same UFO. The Charles Welch family had been driving toward Barrington.
There was a ball of light with, switching the mind of a blowtorch with a greenish-blue tail to it. There were a few sparks coming off of it, and I sped to the corner, which we can see is very close to us. I turned around, stopped the car, rolled the window down, and by that time it had moved from the point where they first saw it to above the trees to our left, and then it went into a small cloud. Again, we spotted it as it came out of the cloud, and very shortly after that, it quickly disappeared.
A third sighting took place near a shopping center in Carpentersville. The witness, Richard Rohrer.
Well, Mr. Rohrer, you saw an unusual sighting of some sort. Can you describe what it was, or describe what you saw?
Yes. Apparently it was an object. I don't know exactly what it was. It was a bright blue object. And
could I interrupt you?
Yes.
Did you see an object, or did you see the light?
No, all I saw was the light.
I see.
All I saw, and I'm considering this an object because I don't know what it was. It was a bright blue light, like a acetylene torch. It had a large body, and it appeared to taper off. When I first sighted it, it was over in this direction here, and it traveled apparently on this side of the tower and went completely down to the end of the shopping center.
Well, you don't mean, or do you mean, that it came between the tower and you?
Yes, this is what I mean. It came on this side of the tower.
This side of the tower?
Right.
There were other witnesses in East Dundee, in Elgin, and further to the west. All saw the same object on the same date at the same time. Dr. Heinig gathered his data and looked for answers. The results of his investigation in a moment. What did they see in Barrington Hills on April 15, 1965? And what did they see on that country road and near the shopping center in Carpentersville? Dr. Heinig believes it was a bolide, a fireball, a meteor as bright as daylight.
We had the situation of many observers, Mrs. Baumgart, Mr. Welch, Mr. Rohrer, being separated by several miles, and observers west of Elgin, as far west as Durand, all of them saying that they saw it predominantly in an eastern direction. Now, if it had been extremely close to any one of them, it could not have been seen to the east by all the people. That is, it had to be a fair distance away. And I think we can conclude that this particular sighting was a bolide. The very dramatic sighting made by Mrs. Crowley is a real puzzler, and I can't say and won't say that I have solved it or know the answer, yet a simple calculation shows that the setting moon was in virtually precisely the position of the sighting of the glow that Mrs. Crowley reported. And the puzzling thing that remains is simply that why didn't she see the moon, which was right smack in the place that the glow was? The case reported by Officer Joe Lukasak and his colleagues in Elmwood Park represents a good UFO, which simply means unidentified flying object. I would like, of course, to be able to explain it as a setting moon, but it would be almost preposterous to try to ascribe to the moon the erratic motions of the object as described and reported by Officer Joe Lukasak.
We believe that while a large number of sightings are explained as natural phenomena, there is still that considerable percentage which are unexplained. These are the ones that concern us.
It is true that a number of UFO reports remain unidentified. However, the Air Force will continue to evaluate this report and any other UFO reports which are reported directly to us. If an observer wishes to report a UFO observation, he should contact his nearest Air Force base.
We believe that the Air Force belittles and ridicules both sightings and observers unnecessarily. We feel that the uninformed public are being duped or hoaxed by the weak explanations of UFOs.
After almost 20 years and after having investigated over 9,000 cases, the Air Force has determined that the UFO phenomenon does not present a threat to the national security of the United States. Also, we have determined that the UFO phenomena as such does not represent any technological advancement beyond our state of the art.
Please contact us. We are your friends.
For nearly 20 years, we've argued. For nearly 20 years, we've wondered. Have we been watching a fantasy, a legend, a myth? Or is something up there watching us?
Please contact us. Please contact us.